In the far corner of a dry, dusty earth town, there was a place no one visited often, a junkyard full of old machines, broken vehicles, and metal parts. This junkyard was owned by a quiet human man named Jared. He was not rich, not famous, just a simple man who fixed broken things for a living. People in the nearby town called him the Fixer. One hot afternoon, while Jared was checking an old spacebike engine, the sky above his junkyard suddenly turned dark. The clouds were not natural. They were swirling, moving fast like something was pushing them. Then, a loud boom echoed across the sky. A flash of light cut through the clouds. Jared looked up, eyes wide. A ship, unlike anything he had ever seen, was falling from the sky. It was large, silver blue, and shaped like a crescent moon. It moved fast and crashed behind the far wall of his junkyard, shaking the ground and sending dust flying everywhere. He dropped his tools and ran toward the smoke. When Jared reached the crash site, he stopped. His heart beat fast. The strange ship was half buried in metal parts and dirt. It was damaged badly, burnt and cracked, but still glowing with a soft blue light. A soft humming sound came from it. He moved closer, carefully, holding his breath. Then, the door of the ship opened with a hiss. From inside, 3 tall figures stepped out slowly. They were women, but not human. Their skin glowed with soft colors, and their eyes were large and shining like stars. Their hair floated gently as if underwater. One of them was hurt, bleeding from her arm. Another held her carefully. Jared took a step back, confused and afraid. The tallest of the alien women looked at him. She said something in a language he didn't understand. Her voice was soft, musical, but her eyes were full of worry. She pointed to the sky, then to the ship. Then she pointed at Jared. He didn't know what she meant. Suddenly, the injured alien fell to the ground. She closed her eyes and stopped moving. Jared forgot his fear. He rushed forward, kneeling beside her. He checked her pulse, still alive, but weak. He looked at the other 2. "She needs help," he said, even though he knew they couldn't understand. The taller woman nodded. Her eyes were wet. Tears? Jared stood up. "Come with me," he said, motioning them to follow him. He led them quietly through the junkyard to his workshop, where he had lights, tools, and medical supplies. Inside, the alien women looked around with wide eyes. The walls were lined with broken machines, old alien tech, and half-finished projects. Jared made the injured woman lie on his work table and gently cleaned her wound. The other 2 watched closely, still silent. Hours passed. By nightfall, the woman's breathing became stable. Jared gave the other 2 some water and bread. They sniffed it carefully, then ate slowly. Their movements were graceful, almost royal. One of them, the tallest one, pointed at herself and said, "Elari." Jared pointed to himself. "Jared, Elari," she said again softly. "Jared." They shared a quiet look, still strangers, but no longer afraid. Outside, the stars had returned to the sky. But in that lonely junkyard, something new had begun. A human and 3 alien women, brought together by accident. Or maybe by fate. Jared didn't know who they were, or what would happen next. But deep inside, he felt one thing clearly. This was not just another repair job. This was the start of something bigger. The next morning, sunlight touched the metal walls of Jared's workshop. Dust floated in the air, golden and quiet. Inside, the 3 alien women sat silently. Elari, the tall one, stood near the window watching the sky. The one Jared had saved was resting, breathing better now. Her skin was pale blue and her hair shimmered like silver threads. The 3rd woman stayed close to her, guarding her like a sister. Jared brought more food, water, bread, and a few fruits. He placed them gently on the workbench. The women looked at it, then at him. Elari gave a short nod, a sign of thanks. There were no words between them. Not yet. But the silence was not empty. It was full of meaning. Jared pointed to the broken ship outside, then to himself. then made a gesture with his hands like fixing something. Ilari tilted her head, then slowly nodded again. She walked to the door and signaled him to follow. They stepped out into the junkyard. The ship looked even worse in daylight. Burnt edges, a cracked wing, and parts Jared didn't recognize. He walked around it, touching the metal gently. It was different from anything he'd seen. It wasn't just technology, it felt alive, like it breathed. He found the damaged engine core. It was glowing faintly, blinking, slow and weak. Jared had seen similar systems before, but this one was special. It needed care, it needed time, and it needed trust. He looked at Ilari. "I'll try," he said. She didn't understand the words, but she saw the look in his eyes. She gave a short, silent bow. That was the deal. No papers, no words, only trust. That night, Jared began the work. He studied the alien engine, comparing it to old blueprints he had collected over the years. His hands moved fast but carefully. He cleaned wires, recharged power cores, replaced melted circuits with custom-built ones. The alien ship was beautiful, even in pain. It responded to his touch, humming gently, like a heartbeat under metal. As he worked, Ilari sat nearby, always watching. She didn't speak, but she helped, handing him tools, pointing to parts he didn't see, even drawing shapes in the dust to guide him. Hours passed. The two worked like a silent team. At one point, Jared's hand slipped. A sharp wire cut his palm. He winced and pulled back. Blood dripped on the metal. Ilari moved quickly. She held his hand gently, touched the wound, and placed a small glowing stone over it. The light from the stone sank into his skin. The pain vanished. Jared looked at her in shock. "What was that?" She just smiled. The first real smile since they met. It was small, but it was full of kindness. By the third day, the ship's lights were stronger. The engine hummed louder. The repairs were working. Jared was tired, covered in grease, but proud. At night, he sat by the fire outside thinking, why were they here? Why hadn't they left already? Were they being hunted? He looked at the sky. Distant stars blinked coldly. Somewhere out there, something was happening. Something bigger than him. Ilari sat beside him quietly. She looked up, then pointed to one of the stars. She touched her heart, then pointed to Jared. He didn't understand, but he felt something heavy in her eyes. A message without words. He nodded slowly. She reached into her belt and took out a small crystal. Blue, glowing, shaped like a teardrop. She placed it in Jared's hand and closed his fingers around it. "Reward," she said softly. Jared raised an eyebrow. "What?" She shook her head. "Not now. Later." He looked at the crystal. It felt warm, alive. He didn't know what it was or why it mattered. But one thing was clear. This was not just a reward. It was a promise, a silent deal. Night fell again, but it was not quiet. Strange lights moved in the sky above Jared's junkyard. Fast, silent, and sharp like knives cutting through the dark. At first, Jared thought they were shooting stars, but then he saw how they stopped, hovered, scanned. They were not stars. They were searching. Inside the garage, Jared worked faster now. The alien ship's engine was alive again. Its blue light pulsed stronger each hour. The two alien women helped quietly, their hands gentle and careful. The third, still healing, lay under soft blankets. Jared didn't sleep. He couldn't. He kept thinking about the lights, about the crystal Ilari gave him, and about the sound he heard last night. A deep hum coming from the sky, not natural, not human. At midnight, he stepped outside for air. The wind was cold. He looked up and froze. In the sky above his junkyard, a dark triangle-shaped object floated silently. It had no windows, no engines, Just 3 glowing red circles under it. It was watching. Jared rushed back inside. "Elari," he called. She turned. Her face changed, sharp and serious. He pointed to the sky, drew a triangle with his hands, then 3 circles. Her eyes widened. She ran to the injured woman and spoke fast in her own language. The other alien woman stood up, her eyes glowing brighter now. This was danger. They knew it too. Ilari turned to Jared and held up 3 fingers, then pointed up. "Hunters," she said softly. Jared's heart dropped. So that's why they crashed. We're running from someone or something, and now those things had found them. Jared didn't think twice. "Come with me," he said. He opened the back of his workshop and led them through a hidden tunnel he had dug years ago for storing rare tech. It was dark and narrow, but safe. The aliens followed quietly. They reached a metal door. Jared opened it, and they stepped into a cold underground room full of tools, batteries, and storage crates. The alien women looked around, confused. Ilari pointed upward. "Ship. They'll find it if we stay," Jared said, even though he knew she wouldn't understand. Still, she seemed to get the meaning. They waited in the dark. Above them a low hum passed by, closer now. A red light flashed through the junkyard, scanning each object like a hungry eye. Jared closed his eyes. Would they find the ship? Would they kill him too? Silence. Then, the hum faded. The red light disappeared. They were safe. For now. Later, after the danger passed, Jared and Ilari sat side by side in the dim room. He held the glowing blue crystal she gave him and looked at her. "Who are you really?" he asked. Ilari didn't answer right away. She took a deep breath. Then, slowly, she spoke in broken English. "Run from Empire. We stole something. Dangerous. Not weapon. Truth." Jared stared. "Truth?" She nodded. "They hide it. We took it. Now they hunt us." Jared looked at the crystal. "Is this the truth?" "No," she said. "That is key." "Key to what?" She placed her hand on his chest. "Key to choice." Jared didn't understand, but the way she looked at him, it wasn't fear. It wasn't sadness. It was hope. In the morning, Jared returned to the ship. It was still there, but the air around it felt heavier, like something had touched it in the night. He checked the engine. Still working. Then he saw it, a small black device, round and sharp, stuck under the ship's wing. A tracker. "They found us," he whispered. He pulled it off and crushed it with a hammer. Sparks flew. But it was too late. They knew. Jared went. Back to the garage. Ilari was already waiting. Her eyes said what her mouth couldn't. Time was running out. They had to leave. But the ship still needed one final fix. Its guidance system. A part Jared didn't have. Unless he used his own core processor, the one he built for his failed flying drone. It wasn't perfect, but maybe, just maybe, he could make it work. He looked at the women, then at the part, then he nodded. "I'll do it," he whispered. This was no longer just about a ship. This was now about trust, survival, and something far bigger than Earth. Jared's garage smelled like hot wires and burning circuits. Smoke rose in curls from his work table, where he had just removed the core processor from his last working drone. His fingers were black with grease, his face covered in sweat. The alien women stood nearby, silent but watchful. Ilari stepped closer. She looked at the small square device in Jared's hands, the processor that could give their ship the power to fly again. "Yours," she said softly. Jared nodded. "It's the only one I've got, but it should work." He knelt beside the ship and opened a hatch near the rear. Wires spilled out like veins. The ship felt warm, like it was waiting for him. Carefully, he placed the processor inside. The ship hummed. Soft lights began to glow all across its body. The engines pulsed with energy. The wings stretched slightly like a bird waking up after a long sleep. It was working. He stepped back, breathless. "You can leave now," he whispered. Ilari didn't answer. That night, no one slept. Jared sat outside the garage beside the fire, staring at the sky. The stars were bright, too bright, like watchers, like eyes. He knew what was coming. Somewhere up there, those hunters, those alien drones, were waiting, searching. And now that the tracker was gone, they might come back faster, more dangerous. Behind him, the ship stood ready. The repairs were done. The engine was stable. It could fly. But the question stayed heavy in the air. Would they make it? Would he ever see them again? Ilari walked over and sat beside him. Her skin glowed faintly in the firelight. She didn't speak for a while. Then she placed something in his hand. It was a small flat device, silver and thin, with strange symbols on it. "Gift," she said. Jared looked at it. "What is it?" Ilari hesitated. Then she touched his forehead gently and said, "It is. Promise. When you need us most, this will speak." Jared frowned. "Speak," she nodded. "In your voice. In your time. In your moment." He stared at the device. It didn't blink or glow. It was just still. Silent. "Why are you giving me this?" he asked. Ilari looked at the stars. "Because you chose kindness." She turned to him. No one else did. Dawn came. Soft orange light touched the edge of the desert. The ship stood tall now, clean, repaired, humming with power. The two alien women had loaded their few things inside. The injured one, now recovered, gave Jared a nod before vanishing into the ship. Ilari was the last to board. Jared stood near the ramp, his hands in his pockets. "So, this is it?" he asked. She tilted her head. He smiled sadly. "No ride-along seat for the guy who fixed everything?" Ilari stepped close. She looked into his eyes, deep, calm, unreadable. Then she said, "You are not ready. Yet." "Yet?" "One day," she whispered, placing her hand over his chest, where the glowing blue crystal still rested in his shirt pocket. "When this shines, come find me." He looked down. The crystal was dim. She stepped back. Then, with one last look, she turned and entered the ship. The ramp lifted. The engines roared. Jared stepped back as the ship rose into the sky, smooth, quiet, beautiful. The wind blew through his hair and the heat from the engine warmed his skin. Then, in a flash of silver light, it was gone. No trace, no sound. Only the wind and the dust, and silence. Jared stood there for a long time. The garage was empty again. The stars blinked above him like they always had, but something had changed. Not just the sky, not just the junkyard. Him. In his pocket, the crystal pulsed once, faintly, and in his hand, the silver device remained. No light, no sound, just a promise. Reward not of gold or riches, but something deeper, a trust, a connection, a future given in silence. The night after the ship disappeared was different. It was too still. Jared sat inside his garage, the fire long gone cold. The only sound was the ticking of an old wall clock and the soft hum of a power cord charging in the corner. But even those normal noises felt strange now, too quiet, like the air itself was holding its breath. He tried to sleep, but the bed felt empty. His hands twitched, still expecting to fix something. His mind replayed the last few days on a loop, the crash, the fear, the silence, the trust, and then the promise. That silver device sat on the shelf next to the glowing blue crystal, both quiet, both still, like they were waiting for something. Then, around midnight, the garage lights flickered, once, twice, and then went dark. Jared sat up, alert. The air turned cold. Outside, something was coming. He stepped out into the junkyard, flashlight in hand. The beam cut through the dark, but the shadows moved oddly, like they didn't belong. His boots crunched softly on the sand. Then he saw it, a dark shape hovering just above the ground near the old metal fence. It wasn't big, but it was smooth, round, and pulsing with red light. Another tracker. His heart sank. "They're back," he whispered. Before he could react, the tracker shot upward and vanished into the sky, leaving behind a strange sound like static mixed with metal grinding. Within seconds, the sky cracked open. From above, a black ship descended, much larger than the one Eilari arrived in. It didn't glide like hers did. It stalked the ground like a beast. The wind roared around it. Red lights scanned the junkyard. Jared ducked behind a metal bin. He had no weapons. No shield. No warning. Just fear. The ship landed with a hard thud. A ramp extended with a mechanical hiss. Two figures walked down. Not like Eilari. These were different. Taller, bulkier, with armor that looked like it was made for war. Their faces were hidden behind helmets with glowing red lines. One of them raised a hand. Jared froze. The alien spoke in a sharp, echoing voice. "Where is the fugitive craft?" Jared said nothing. The second alien stepped closer, holding a device. It beeped when pointed at the ground, right where Eilari's ship had lifted off just hours ago. "Confirmed. Recent launch detected," it said. The first alien scanned the area and turned its helmet toward Jared. "You helped them." It wasn't a question, it was a fact. Jared stood up slowly. "They were hurt," he said. "They needed help. Helping fugitives from the Eric's dominion is a crime," the voice boomed. "Punishable by destruction." "Destruction?" Jared asked. "Of what?" The alien pointed at the garage. "Your home, your tools, your body." Jared felt anger rise in his chest. They did nothing wrong. They stole something sacred. "They stole the truth," Jared said firmly. "I don't know what that is, but if you're hiding it, maybe you're the criminal." For a second, there was silence. Then the alien raised its hand. "Terminate." But before the weapon could fire, the blue crystal in Jared's pocket lit up, bright, blinding. The air shimmered, and then they were gone. Jared blinked. The junkyard was empty again. No ship. No aliens, no fire, no sound, just the wind. He stumbled back toward the garage, breathing hard. What just happened? The silver device on his shelf was glowing now. He touched it. A voice, soft and familiar, spoke from the device. "Eilari. Jared. If you're hearing this, it means they found you, and it means the key has activated." He sat down slowly, heart pounding. "We left the moment your repairs were complete, but the Dominion hunts fast. If the crystal shines, it means you are, marked not as enemy but as witness. You now carry part of the truth and the choice to share it or to protect it." Her voice paused, then softer. "I'm sorry. I wanted to tell you everything, but I couldn't risk it, not yet." Jared looked out the window. The sky was calm again, but inside, everything had changed. He had vanished, or time had, or space, or something he didn't understand yet. All he knew was this: he wasn't alone anymore. And the next step wouldn't be human. 3 days passed. Jared didn't fix any engines. He didn't touch a single tool. He just stared at the sky. The junkyard was quiet again, just like before the crash. But it didn't feel the same anymore. The place felt heavier, like the silence was watching him. And Jared, he had changed. He wasn't sure how, but he knew something inside him was different. It started with small things. His old radio, broken for years, suddenly picked up signals, alien voices, soft music, unknown languages. His tablet even went off, blinked with strange patterns when he held the crystal, and when he touched any machine, it responded. Old junk started to hum. Lights flickered near him. One time, a small drone powered on without being plugged in. Just by Jared standing nearby. Something had been left behind. He returned to the garage and picked up the silver device Eilari gave him. It was glowing faintly again, like it was waiting. Jared held it close. You said this would speak, but I don't understand the message. He sat beside the fire pit and placed the device on the table next to the blue crystal. He stared at them for hours until he fell asleep. That night he dreamed. But it wasn't a dream. He stood in a place that wasn't Earth. The sky was green and purple, full of moons and glowing clouds. The ground was metal, smooth and endless. In front of him stood a huge gate covered in symbols. Then he saw Ailari. She wasn't alone. 1,000 alien voices echoed behind her. Soldiers, scientists, elders, a people hiding from something greater. Ailari stepped forward and touched Jared's chest. You carry the key, she said, and more. What did you give me? Jared asked. She smiled softly. Not a reward, a role. A role? You are now guardian of the passage. When the day comes, you will choose if truth becomes light or shadow. Jared looked confused. I don't understand. You will. The ground shook. Alarms rang. Red lights flashed. Ailari faded, and the dream ended. Jared woke with a sharp breath. The silver device was still on the table, but now it was warm. And the crystal? It was pulsing slowly, like a heartbeat. Jared stood up, grabbed both, and walked to the center of the junkyard. He placed them on the ground. Okay, he said. Let's see what you left behind. He activated the device. A hologram burst from it, blue and tall. Not a message, not a face, a map, a star map. It showed thousands of dots, worlds, systems, paths. One of the stars blinked brighter than the rest. Earth. The crystal pulsed faster. Then a line drew itself from Earth to a point far across the galaxy, a hidden place. Jared stepped back. This is where they are? No voice answered. Just the map, just the silence. But now Jared knew. They hadn't only left him behind. They had given him a path. That evening, Jared opened a metal box he hadn't touched in years. Inside was the old frame of a long-dead shuttle pod, half-built, abandoned after funding for his space project was denied. He touched the side. It hummed, softly, like it had been waiting. He smiled. If I'm gonna find you, he whispered, I'll need a ride. The wind blew softly, carrying the sound of sparks as he began to weld alone, but no longer just a mechanic, not anymore. 1 year later, the junkyard was gone. In its place stood a tall silver tower, smooth, quiet, humming with alien energy, hidden from satellites, guarded by drones, powered by tech not from Earth. At the top of the tower stood Jared. His eyes looked older now, wiser. His hands were no longer stained by grease but covered in fine lines of glowing circuits, thin patterns across his skin, like tattoos made of light. He wasn't just a man anymore. He was the guardian. It had taken months to build the ship. He worked alone, day and night, guided by the map Ailari left behind, powered by the blue crystal, and protected by the silver device. He studied alien systems. He learned languages he never heard before. In his sleep, dreams became lessons. Machines became friends. And then, the message came. From space. From deep in the galaxy. A call, a warning. A war had begun. The Dominion had returned, and this time, they weren't just hunting Ailari's people. They were hunting truth itself. Jared stood on the bridge of his new ship, the Silent Flame. Sleek, strong, powered by a hybrid core of alien and human tech. He activated the beacon. A pulse of light shot into the stars. Within moments, a response arrived. A fleet. Not just one ship, but hundreds, long glowing crafts from distant worlds. Ailari's people, refugees, scientists, warriors. They came not to fight but to follow. Jared's signal had marked him as the chosen witness, the one who helped, not for gold, but for kindness. Now they followed his lead. Above Earth, the Dominion. Ships appeared like shadows. They came in silence but with power. They sent no message, They didn't ask questions, they simply aimed their weapons. But then, Jared's fleet arrived. Massive alien ships blocked out the sun. Elegant, beautiful, terrifying. The people of Earth looked up in shock as two alien powers hovered in the sky, one of destruction, the other of hope. Jared's voice echoed across the airwaves. I am Jared of Earth. I repaired a broken ship. I was given a promise not of riches but of truth. And now, I keep that promise. Aelari appeared beside him on the screen. Alive, regal, queen of her people. She stepped forward and spoke. This human chose compassion over fear. While the Dominion chose silence, he chose light. We follow him, not as a leader of war, but of wisdom. The Dominion ships paused. Their scanners confirmed it. Jared's DNA had changed. He was marked by the key of passage, by the witness protocol, by the truth itself. Killing him now would ignite a war across 10 galaxies. They retreated. Silently. Shamed. Down on Earth, people came out of their homes. They had seen the ships, heard the speech, watched the sky go dark, and then light again. And they whispered his name. Jared, the mechanic, the loner, the fixer. Now the guardian. Later, in a quiet moment on the ship, Aelari sat beside him. You still think this is about fixing a ship? She asked. Jared smiled. No, he said. It was never about that. He looked at the stars through the ship's glass. It was about fixing something bigger. That was the real reward, not gold, not power, not fame, but the chance to change. The future. One act of kindness, one broken ship, one silent deal, had changed the galaxy forever.